You hear
Okay.
me?
Yep, we got you, Mr. Blackman, and we're actually going to start the meeting right now. I understand that it does work, so thank you all for your patience on the technicalness of our e-town hall here. Welcome everybody to City Island Rising. It is 7:40. My name is John Doyle. I'm going to be presiding over the meeting. I appreciate everyone being here. We have a lot of really, really great guests. I mean, this is probably one of the meetings we have, people of all different backgrounds and really people who are very knowledgeable about the subjects that directly impact all our lives. Before we start, I wanted to begin the meeting with a moment of silence for Elizabeth Mass, who was the woman who lost her life last week in an incident involving gun violence. And I also want to include in that someone who I just found out passed away, and that's Edwin Gonzalez. He was a small business owner. He used to own City Island Auto Body. He passed away as well. So if everyone can just join me in a quick moment of silence to remember them and pay our respects. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming to this meeting. And we just had a very good discussion about a lot of the things that are going on in the community and, concerns with safety. And it's natural after the gun violence incident we had for everyone to re-examine their surroundings and what's going on. I put this on social media, but I'm just going to say it. I think it's very important that people keep in mind this has been the first homicide in 25 years on the island, which indicates a very, very safe community. And in our local police precinct, which is obviously City Island, Co-op City, Country Club, Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay, and Westchester Square, I believe it's the 8th in over 20 years. So, our precinct is the size of many small cities around the country. So it's very important that we keep in mind, we still, not that we should ever excuse violence, but we should also take pride in the fact that we live in a safe community amongst people who value their safety as much as we all do. And we still live in a very good neighborhood and surrounding community as well. With that in mind, and our neighbor from one of our neighboring communities here is Linda Berk, who should be no stranger to most of you because she has actually been a guest at our meetings before. Linda is the regional coordinator for the U.S. Census, and she's coming to give us an update on the census. And I want to thank Linda for making time for us in her schedule. Thank you, Linda.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, for having me. And one of the things that we're doing right now is sharing our information. The census every 10 years does a data collection for the entire population. And we also do data collection throughout the years. And we have a wealth of information that is free. And that's the key word. It's free and it's available to you. So I'd like to briefly go through my presentation, share with you the ways in which you can access and how we can show you how you can access this valuable information. Okay, first I need to choose share the screen. I've since learned to clean up my computer screen too. I remember once opening up and I had all kinds of stuff on there. So the first thing we want to say is thank you. For all of you who helped in the count in the decennial and making sure that we got counted. We know this year, particularly for New York, it's going to be critical because there will be shifts in our congressional representation. It also counts in terms of funding from the federal government for money. So small communities like Co-op City, like City Island, that's very important to us and very critical. It affects our services, our roads, schools, hospitals, and everything else. But I want to share with you at a glance what the census is about. So we do two things. We do census, and that's a decennial census done every year where we count everyone in the population, no matter who they are. We want to know if you're living and breathing here, you're using services, we need to know that. We also do economic census every 5 years. It gives us a pulse and an idea of what our economic health is like. We also do the census of governments every 5 years, which gives us a chance to understand our state and governmental agencies and representation and their interaction, intergovernmental actions. But we also do surveys, and that's what we do most of the time. So people always ask, what do you do in between those 10 years? We do basic surveys, the American Community Survey being the most popular. ACS is where we get a lot of data that is used for many ways in which you can retrieve information, and I'll show you briefly. But we do demographic surveys that measure various aspects of our communities: income, even computer usage, insurance coverage, education, poverty levels. We do economic surveys that are done monthly, quarterly. We get our unemployment rates from our labor survey. So there are many things in which statistics come up on a regular basis that come from what we do. We also have sponsored surveys like HUD. We do the American Housing Survey, or for New York, we do New York Housing Vacancy Survey. And that's so we have a very good look at what the housing situation is here in the city. The population estimates and projections are used throughout the country for any number of things. They include everything from birth and the changes in population to death and migration. So what does all this mean to you? How can you use this data? We want you to understand how the community can use it. It's used for roads, businesses, government, education, needs that are including emergency services and emergency planning services. Some of the demographic surveys, we talked about the decennial, its implications in terms of congressional representation and financial funding from the federal government. The American Community Survey that I talked about is the bulk of what we do, is available at this website. And I will send this presentation to John so that you can have all of this reference information. This tool that we have is people love it. It's a spinning tool, and you can take a look at various states, population from the median age, income, households. People tend to look at it not just for their state, but they like to look at it where their parents live or maybe where they went to college. And it's just an interesting tidbit. But this is information governments can use, organizations can use, emergency planners, but even small businesses. And that might be critical to a lot of people on City Island. Entrepreneurs find this information very, very useful for being able to determine the status of where they are and what other businesses are there and what the various needs are. Give you an idea of ACS. It goes everywhere from the national level down to as finite as block groups. So census tracts are 2,000 to 3,000 households. Block groups are much smaller, and they give you a more detailed look. So one of the things I'm going to show you as we move on is how you can mine for this information for yourself. This page will give you access to helpful information, handbooks, training presentations, as well as more detailed information about ACS, American Community Survey. This is American Housing Survey that I talked about, and briefly, just to give you an idea, you could put City Island's information in and get a real thorough look of what your community looks like. This shows you New York City. Over 7 million housing units in the city of New York. I was amazed that almost 3 million of them had central air conditioning. And so we tell you all kinds of interesting tidbits like that. This is useful information for planners, policymakers, community stakeholders, but something that's right at your fingertips and available. The Population Estimates Program also works with giving you a projection on what the population is, what it's been, what it will be. This particular example, which gives you the ranking of geographic metropolitan areas. So you see New York, Newark, Pennsylvania, that is the largest in the country with 19 million. And that makes sense. But what I thought was interesting when I saw this is that Philadelphia was number 5. And I always thought the Philadelphia area was smaller than Boston, which is number 10 on the list. So again, one of the interesting things about the data is just finding comparisons and seeing how some cities, towns, communities relate to others. And economic censuses, for example, this is here in Boston, where it shows in Massachusetts, in the Massachusetts area, they have 167 museum establishments, but it also gives you what the annual payroll is, as well as their employees. If you did the same thing for City Island, you would be able to see the specifics on City Island. And what I find, because I'm an entrepreneur at heart, I think it's in my DNA. This is the survey of business owners, and it gives you a lot of information about specific businesses, and it's particularly important for small business owners, but corporations and economic development professionals use this information as well. So what's next? I want to tell you how you can get this information. One is to stay connected with us, but we have developed what we call data summits. And these data summits, and I will send the catalog to John as well. Please look through it and register. They're everything from summits on data for health professionals, education, statistics in schools. I think it's very important that our young children be statistically literate. It's information on housing, poverty, philanthropic, disability and aging. So they're very a wealth of topics. And these summits will show you how to go into the Census Bureau database and pull out information that you need specifically for those subjects. They're a high level look, but what you also have available is, you see, there's a data dissemination branch that we have that will also come to a meeting like this. And they take an hour and a half or so, but you select a topic, you have questions, you have issues that you'd like to figure out, and they will walk you through the process and show you how you can get this information. We also have Census Academy, and you can go directly there where we have workshops that can be reviewed. There are data gems. There are these little video vignettes that you can watch that will tell you about different things. How to access race and data, how to print the tables that you find. We also have data tools that will show you how to use the information that we have available. This one I referred to briefly. I just want to show it to you again, is statistics in school. Again, I think it's very important that our young people be statistically literate and understand the use and implications and impact of data on their daily lives. We have become so much of an information society and will be even more so. So this is really critical. Has great useful things that you can use, exercises, videos, games, songs, and everything from pre-K to 12th grade. And these are resources for the statistics in school, so you'll find them in the presentation that I send to you. So one of the things that we want to find out is, how can we stay connected? You know, as John said, I've spoken to you before. How can we make sure that by the next decennium, we have kept the door open and the communication has continued? If you need information, one of the most important things we want everyone to understand is this information is free. It's free, free, free. Workshops free. People coming in and helping you how to find data useful for you is free. So we want to make sure that after we collect all this data, the people in the communities, the stakeholders, the advocates and organizers who keep a community running and keep it infused with resources, that you know how to take this data and make it work for your community. So I'm going to ask you if you can think of a way, and if not tonight, but any way that you feel we can serve you better and how we can stay connected, we would like to know. And we'd also like to know what you think are our best practices that could serve your interest. And with that, I'm going to open the floor up to any questions and answers. And I hope I went through this. I know you have a full agenda, so I hope I didn't whiz through too fast. But the floor is open for any questions. Do I have to, let me stop sharing.
There we go.
All right.
Does anyone have a question for Linda?
Hey, John, it's Louisa. Linda, not a question, more of a comment. I saw the catalog of the data summits.
Yes.
And I just want to say you and the U.S. Census Bureau is offering so much to everyone. And all the classes sound really interesting. And I encourage people to take a look because it's really great information and will really teach people how to use the stats that the census provides. It's really great. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Louisa. And as I said, as a small business person at heart, we have one on small businesses. So it might be of interest to some of the business owners on City Island.
Absolutely. Roy Smith had his hand up, so I want to acknowledge him for his question.
Okay.
And now, just a quick request. For those of us that didn't actually like scribble down notes while you were talking, could you send around that slide deck, or at least the various URLs for the websites that you were talking about, or maybe just send them to John and he could include them in the minutes?
Yes,
we have
so
the
I'm going to
reference.
send John two things tomorrow when I'm back in the office. It'll be the presentation and the catalog of data summits.
Thank you.
And I will e-blast it out, Roy, to you and to the entire membership. So don't worry, you will, I promise you will get it. So that's great. Does anyone else have a question for Linda? Lois, go ahead.
That was really interesting, Linda. Thank you, because it gives us a greater breadth of what uses we could make of the data. My question is, if we were looking to identify in the community frail or people living alone, or to develop a support network, how would we use your data?
So through the ACS, you can drill down and find data of aging population, of people in living alone. There's various ways in which you can get the information. People who have disabilities. When I did a research project for my community on disabilities, I was amazed at the kind of disabilities they identify. I hadn't even thought of the disabilities that they, that they listed. So there's very detailed information. And if you have trouble doing it, so I'm not necessarily the best person to tell you how to mine the data. My job is to tell you it's there, but I can connect you with the person who would be able to do that.
Great, great. And Andrea, why don't you go first and I'll make a comment. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you for giving us an idea of what was there. I'm somebody who actually uses data like that. I mean, when people are saying ridiculous things on Twitter or whatever, I go and research it and go, I've gone into the census data and come out and said, yeah, this is the % of people who get SNAP benefits.
Yes. Yes. I
Whatever.
say facts matter, so we have a lot of facts.
Yeah,
Daily facts
I'm a big believer in facts. So,
Yes.
and I didn't know all all the areas of facts that you had. So I just want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And as a character witness, Andrea absolutely does all those things. She comes at people with research and she's very smart. So I'll back her up there. I also want to thank you guys because I've used a lot of the census data that you guys collect for different reports. 10 years ago, we were trying to get a bank in Van Nest, and the data that you guys provided showing that it was an underbanked neighborhood, how many seniors lived there without access to a car, how many people were new Americans, immigrants, was very helpful in convincing a bank to eventually anchor into that community and getting the state involved. And even with some of our work, our continuing work, on getting the bus on City Island 24/7, knowing that a third of the community is senior citizen and maybe can't use their car at certain hours at night, knowing, how many people are, at a certain income level where maybe having their own vehicle might not be in their income range.
Mhm.
That's all very important information that we need. So, Linda, I want to thank you. And I know Pratt and as well as Beta NYC, they also take the data you guys put together and find different ways of presenting it.
Right.
And we're actually and I'll invite you back, Linda, for sure, because I want to bring them in on the conversation because they have really great visualizations, because we're gonna, as Lois kind of said in her remarks, dig down deep into the data of like what is being presented on City Island, what our needs are, and what can we do constructively in this group and in other groups and in coalitions to try to address some of those needs, because we know we have them.
And I can connect you with a data dissemination person who will give
Great.
you every detail that you want. And that's what we love about it. It's free.
Yes,
Keyword.
and you're always a great guest. Beyond that, it's a shame we're not actually meeting for you to give us the swag again and do all that stuff. That was great.
Actually, we're probably giving out all of our swag, but
Okay.
but yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you, because we've done so much work over the last 10 years. We want this information out, so I will do
Thank you.
everything I can to get it to you.
You're a great guest and a great partner in the community. So thank you, Linda, for coming on. Appreciate you.
Take care.
well.
Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, our next guest is on the call. I'm going down here. Michael, are you available, sir?
Yes, hi,
There he
John.
is. There he is. Okay.
Yeah.
Michael works for the Bronx Department of City Planning, and as just Christine, who also just came on here. And Christine's been a guest of ours before, so acknowledge a frequent flyer here. And we reached out to them as a board here because a lot of what we consider it's important for us to do is to bring you guys important things that are happening, going on City Island and the surrounding area. And really right now, one of the most important things going on in the entire region is the Metro North stations that are planned to be around City Island, not on City Island, but there are two stations that are in kind of our purview. One is Co-op City, which is going to be on Erskine Place generally, which is not too far of a walk from certain points near the 29 step. And the second is a little bit off the beaten path, but would be the Morris Park station. So, you know, given that they're collecting data, they're doing a study, we thought it was very important to bring them here and speak to all of you and give everybody an opportunity to voice their suggestions, concerns, what have you, because this is really a like a once in a generation kind of transportation opportunity that we need to make sure that City Island and surrounding communities have seats at the table on. So I want to thank both Michael and Christine for coming here, and I'll let them carry on with their presentation as well.
Thank you, John. That's a very gracious introduction. I appreciate it. So I'll just start by saying I want to make clear that today will not be the last opportunity to provide input on this. I think that's very important. Actually, the reason we wanted to come out is just sort of make sure everyone was aware, and we've been going around to different groups. John's aware that we were out talking to the Van Ness Neighborhood Alliance just a couple of weeks ago. We've been talking to others. I just had a conversation with Linda. Unfortunately, I see she's left already just a couple of weeks ago. So we've been making the rounds. So as John said, there's the Metro North. This is something that's been planned for a long time, we know, and a lot of people have been anticipating for a long time. We, over the course of the last 3 years in the Bronx office, have been working with Metro North on what we call the Bronx Metro North Station Area Study. So Metro North themselves, they will build the stations, and that is their priority right now, and they're still very optimistic about that. They feel that they'll be able to move ahead as planned, but they need to really stay focused on the stations themselves and getting the stations done, getting any track work associated with the stations done. What they don't have the ability to do is exactly what the city has the ability to do, which is all the planning work that happens around the stations. So thinking about how we make them safely accessible, how we think about other issues around them, whether or not it's supporting local business improvement districts. We were out at the bid also just a few weeks ago, the Morris Park bid specifically. All of those sorts of things that go into planning, as well as, you know, thinking about things certainly limited to some stations, but are there opportunities here to grow jobs? Are there opportunities to grow housing, that sort of thing? So we've been doing that for 3 years. About a year ago, almost exactly, we were scheduled to come out for some public events in April. We had a series of public events in the preceding 2 years. Some of you may have been at those around Co-op City. We were out at Co-op City a week after Andy Byford was there speaking about the bus redesign. We were there speaking about the study. We were out at Morris Park at Albert Einstein College of Medicine there. We had a couple of events. We were out at St. Raymond's Elementary School on just off of East Tremont Ave there, as well down in Hunts Point at the Point, those being the 4 stations that John pointed out. So we were about to come out in April of last year, and of course the world sort of fell apart, and we decided that we needed to be a little more thoughtful and reevaluate our timeline. And also, you know, to be perfectly honest, wanted to make sure that we understood where Metro North was, because a transit-oriented study, as we call it, without transit isn't really a thing. So we wanted to make sure that that was going to, you know, that we had reasonable confidence that we could move forward with that. So we've spent the last year sort of trying to figure that out and figure out the timing. At the same time, we've also considered continued the conversations that we could continue. So there were a lot of things that came out of those past years in terms of priorities that were identified, very specific things, sometimes related very specific to particular agencies. And of course, the value of a neighborhood study is you're pulling all of the city agencies together and you're getting everyone in conversation, which is not something that's always easy to do. So there were some things that we could advance in terms of talking to our capital agency partners about opportunities, whether it was, you know, parks or others, and getting ahead on that. And so where we are now is we're ready to come out in sort of a remote setting, which is something we had hoped to do sooner, but just the way, things go, things sometimes take a little bit longer. And so we are within a day, hopefully by Monday, at least at the very latest, we will be launching what we're calling a remote open house. So this will be live for a couple of months. And so when I said that there's going to be plenty of opportunity to provide feedback, that is part of what I meant. So it'll go live. I'll just describe it a little bit, and then maybe we can leave room for a conversation as well, John. If there are any questions, there were certainly questions at the other groups we went out to. So the remote open house has 3 basic components. The first component is essentially, so we call it watch, read, and listen, or watch, read, and speak. And so we have put together some basic, we put together one basic explanatory video, I would say, for the study that's already available online, because we felt like we owed that much to the community to kind of explain where we've been, why we were held up, and where we're going, and what the final outcome is. That's available now. The website will have, in addition to that, a video explaining the high-level objectives that were arrived at over the last 3.5 years of outreach, and how those have guided our work to this day. The point of that is to be accessible, and also, not everyone has time to read through a lot of detailed boards with detailed recommendations and implementation information and things like that. So we wanted someone that didn't have the time for that. In 2 to 3 minutes, they could sit down and they could have a really good idea of what we're aiming for, and then they could feel like they could come to us with, a stance on that, at least. We wanted that. But we also have the detailed recommendations that include kind of more meat on how we intend to accomplish the goals that were identified, as well as implementing partners, agencies that we've identified that would be the right ones to carry out the work. And then there's also a little bit of information on progress to date on those items that have progressed. So that's the first part. They're kind of merged, the watch and the read. There's also some interactivity on the website. I wish I could show you. It's sort of in a beta form that we can't really share yet, but hopefully by tomorrow we would be able to, certainly by next week. So there's some interactivity, some urban design kind of graphic stuff to kind of bring to life some of what we were talking about. I think people will find it pretty engaging. And then importantly, there is a kind of a longer survey. And so this is an opportunity to both respond quickly to answers, but also we have lots of room for open answer responses to things related to the recommendations specifically. And I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to make an important point when I say that, we spent the last period putting together the recommendations. We literally went through, over the last 1.5 years, we literally went through every single comment we got at every public event. We categorized it in the most tedious way, and we made sure that we responded to it, or that we at least addressed it, or some comments obviously we couldn't address. There are certain things that are just so far afield that they are out of the limits of the study. But it was a big undertaking, and I hope you'll see that reflected in the recommendations. But the point I want to make is that what you put into that website will be used. We will have a final plan book by the end of the year, and we will use those comments, and we will go through them the same level of tedium to make sure we're not missing anything. So I just want to make that very clear to everyone. Planning sometimes seems kind of like this odd, obscure process, but we really do look at these things, and we try to advance the things that make sense to advance, that we can advance, and we are listening. So the other really important part of the website that isn't actually part of the website is that we're also going to have some remote Zoom sessions. We don't have those scheduled yet. We're sort of depending on the release of the website, because we want those to start approximately 1 month. And the reason for that is we really want to drive the public to the website, so we can use that first month getting feedback. This is something unique. We couldn't do this in a one-day public event, use the first hour to get feedback and then share back everything we'd heard. But we think this is something unique we can do with a remote environment. So we want to really push people to the website. And I think that is an ask we certainly have with this group is, can you help us get people to the website? Certainly. But then we'll have these remote sessions where we'll do a little bit of sharing back what we've heard in that first month. And then we'll have some more in-depth conversations by topic. We'll do breakouts according to the study sort of organized by vibrant communities, which has everything to do with everything from parks and open space to the stations themselves, to land use and so forth. We've got connected communities, which I think this group will be particularly interested in, particularly John, you mentioned the 24/7 bus you would like. And that sort of thinking, some of it, we're very focused on the stations, but that doesn't mean we can't listen, and we can't also, in our own way, try to advance these conversations with our agency's partners. And then the third component is working communities, because this is a very unique study. It's not like most neighborhood studies, which are just that. They're a study of a neighborhood. This one's absolutely unique in that it's 4 very distinct communities along the line, but it's not just that, it's the line itself, and it's the connections that Bronxites will have thanks to the line, both to Midtown and beyond that way, but also north into job centers there. And we know from the MTA that something like 2/3 of the projected commuters are expected to go north to job centers, not into Midtown. So we know that's very important. We've been working with EDC. John, you've been part of those conversations in the past to try to understand how we really thoughtfully connect Bronxites to that possibility, rather than it just being a station. So I think that's my big plug. I would say we do have that short video I mentioned, which is the explainer video. I think it might be a little maybe rudimentary for this group, but I would be happy to play it. Otherwise, John, I can share with you a link that's already available on our website, and everyone can just take a view of that afterwards as well. That would be fine.
Well, Michael, thank you for that. How long is the video?
It's about 5 minutes. It's the longer one, the explainer.
Okay. What's the kind of consensus of the group here? Because I know this is the big issue that a lot of people, one of the big issues in terms of transportation that a lot of people care about. Do people want to we'll blast the video around, people can watch it at their leisure, and we'll just try to make the best use of the question time here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if anyone who has a question here, thank you, Michael. Anyone who has a question here, please just use the hand function or wave your hand and I will call on you, I promise, if you don't know how to use it. Michael, I just kind of realizing the most common question you're going to get here. And by the way, I appreciate you and Christine for always being accessible. Christine, I know I've been kind of after you lately for the flood maps, for the work we're doing, and you've been responsive, and I appreciate that. So let's start with that. Soon enough, we'll get something on that. But the question I think that a lot of people in City Island would probably have is, as you're leaving down Pelham Bay, by the Pelham Bay Bridge, you're coming towards I-95, Erskine Place right there, that's where the Co-op City Station is going to be. And look, I think everyone on this call is pretty realistic. I'm sure we'd all love a Metro North stop in City Island. We know that's not going to happen. But what can we do to have a stop off the Bronx 29 that is, like a walkable path, well lit, accessible, so people can walk off the Bronx 29 bus safely, even if it's dark, because it is Pelham Bay Park, and walk, make the Erskine Place stop accessible so we can enjoy, the neighboring Co-op City stop. Yeah,
I hear the question, John. I'm not going to obviously have an answer to that. I can tell you that he is a core partner, and so this is certainly something I think we've heard before already, John. But I'm keeping notes here as well. A really quick point, sorry, and I want to make sure this is clear. In terms of the order of the stations, because I don't want you guys to feel like you're being forgotten. The first 2 stations that we'll have, this is kind of how we did the public events, Morris Park and Parkchester Van Nest. When you go to the website initially, once it's live, it'll be those 2 stations only. We'll come a couple months later with Hunts Point and Co-op City, and that's purely because we want to do them right. We didn't want to rush all the stations at once. So I'm keeping notes, John, and certainly we'll raise this with DOT.
That's all I can ask. I didn't expect you to promise me a well-lit path right on this call. I'll come at you another time. Does anyone else have a question on the Metro North's stops and different considerations they want to see kind of undertaken here?
I realize that COVID has put a wrench in many things, including funding and whatnot. So my questions are 2-part. One is, are there meaningful actions we can take to advocate for appropriate funding for this project at any level? And then secondly, what do you know about the planned timeline for the opening of the stops?
For the stations themselves. So yeah, so the first question I can say, obviously it's really important to keep political pressure on that and demonstrate that these stations are important. I would say we see the study as part of that, as a demonstration, not just to the MTA, but to elected officials at the state and national level, that this is important. This is part of the reason we want to make sure we get good turnout. We've had a very positive experience in the last 3 years in terms of people hearing that this is important, and that's never been an issue. And the MTA has assured us this remains a priority to them, so we're very confident. But that being said, I think it's always good to show that this is important to the community ultimately. The second question, in terms of the timing, is a trickier one because I'm not an MTA representative and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth by speaking for them. I can tell you that, obviously this is a project somewhat 30 years in the planning, and it really came to life a few years ago when about 695 million was approved. And that was a portion of the total budget, but that was a very important sign that it was really moving forward. At the beginning of 2020, the MTA came out very hot and heavy with a $50 billion capital budget that included all of the remaining funds that would have been needed to finish the stations, and that's kind of the question. But again, the MTA has signaled to us that this is a priority project for them, and they've always been very clear about that. I think the question is a combination of when, in terms of the final funding being secured, but I think we're also very optimistic about a potential infrastructure package coming through. The latest we had been told, Beverly, was I think before things kind of fell apart, they were saying something like 2025. And I think we're hopeful that it probably hasn't shifted too much from that. So at least, we're very optimistic it's not going to be another 20, 30 years, even 10. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two questions. Nicole, you had your hand up first, so we're going to go to you and then we'll go to Roy.
Okay, thanks. I just had a couple of questions. One is, can express buses be reinstated on the weekends? And why is there no multi-ride pass price for that? Is there a ferry that's coming to City Island? Why not? And then where's the parking for, if you want to go to get the number 6 train, there's no parking over there. What are you supposed to do on the weekends? The buses never come. So you can't get off the island on the weekends if you're taking public transportation. So what's happening with that? Thank you.
Yeah. So Nicole, I do appreciate the questions. I've typed them all down here. Again, DOT is one of our core partners. Most of these questions are a little beyond necessarily the purview of the station areas proper, but certainly the number 6 station there is an important connection. So I'll pass it on. I don't have a good answer for you in terms of the reinstating the weekends and why no multi-ride pass. The City Island ferry, that would ultimately be an EDC question, but they're a core partner, so we can ask the question of them. Is this something that's been thought about? But the parking question is always a tricky one that, ultimately, again, this is going to be an MTA/DOT consideration, but I don't know enough about the considerations for parking at that station. I do know with the new stations that the MTA has made it clear they will not provide parking. And the city's stance has been that, the city is not in the business of building new municipal parking. I think what we've focused on closer to the stations, so at Morris Park, for instance, is how we encourage those people that would be comfortable getting to and from the station in other ways to do so as a way of alleviating some of the pressure on the network as well. So some of you might be aware that there's a pilot happening in the East Bronx for scooters. And however you feel about scooters, I think a really important thing to understand dynamically, and one of the things that, planning is not, it's a lot of push and pull and trying to figure out how you make everyone happy and how you make things work, and it's not always clean. But certainly one of those levers that we see and we're hopeful about is everyone you get on a scooter, even though you might hate them riding down the street, that's one less person on the way to the station to take a parking spot from someone that might be driving. And that's also an important dynamic. So that's been an important part of the conversation, how we think about, making it possible for some people to use other means of getting to. John, you had a.
Yeah, Michael, I'm glad you said that, because we're the only East Bronx neighborhood that isn't technically getting the scooter service yet. So we're going to count on you to be our voice in the room with those stakeholders to make that happen. But I want to keep, and Nicole, thank you for both those questions. They're very thoughtful. Roy and then Nancy, please. And if anyone else has a question, either raise your hand, private message me, so I know you need to ask a question, or use the hand function. So Roy, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, so you already kind of segued into one of the things that was hot on my mind, which is the fact that scooters are apparently not coming to City Island. But I wanted to ask a more general question. What is in the plans in the way of, I guess, micromobility infrastructure would be the right way to describe it. If people are going to get from City Island to these train stations on a bike or on a scooter or whatever, or rent a city bike, assuming City Bike ever actually does manage to come here. What kind of facilities are there going to be at these stations to support that? I mean, one of the really important things is secure bike parking. For me to ride a bike, I'm perfectly happy to ride a bike the 3 miles over to Co-op City to catch a train. I'm not happy to chain it up to somewhere to discover that it's going to get stolen by the time I get back. So there needs to be some kind of secure parking facility. So let me let you answer that, and then I'll ask my next question after you're done.
Joan Mallory.
Thank you, Roy, for the question. And I've also noted these down for a couple of things. The MTA, I'm not 100% familiar with the stations, the final design hasn't happened yet, but I do believe there is some accommodation for bike parking. I'm not certain of that. I can double check and get back to John. This is something we certainly heard. We heard a lot at Morris Park, people that would want to commute down Morris Park towards the station from the surrounding area, or students nearby. In terms of other facilities, I just wanted to note that we are thinking about those connections, and we are thinking about the bike connections through the area. We heard a lot about that. We've certainly been thinking about that around Co-op City, and how we better make those connections to Erskine and that area. We also know the Hutchinson River Parkway has the Greenway, and we're trying to understand how we can better connect that. Also, going west from the Hutchinson River Parkway into that, the large redevelopment there, and that sort of thing. Those are certainly parts of the conversation we've been having. I can see what I can find from the MTA, Roy, but I do believe that there is some provision, and I know that DOT is also very interested in this, and so there's maybe it's not just a single answer from the MTA. It needs to be a combination of things, but that's the answer I can give you right now.
Okay, so the other question I had, which I suspect you'll be better able to answer, still not clear in my mind who all the players are. So there's land, I guess the city owns the land, and they're going to be leasing the land to the MTA, and then the MTA will actually own and operate the stations, or you're already shaking your head, so I'll let you just take it away and explain how all that works.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the line itself is owned by Amtrak. Amtrak runs the solid trains there today. There's also freight rail that runs down the line. So the MTA will lease the use of the rail line from Amtrak. So the city doesn't own it. The MTA stations themselves will largely in most places be on what is essentially Amtrak land, and I think actually pretty much everywhere. But we are also interested, and this is really more salient at Morris Park and in Parkchester, where there's a little more room to do things, and also it may be a little more appropriate. Erskine's an awfully small area right next to a small community. But at Morris Park, for instance, we're trying to understand how we can complement what Metro North is doing within the railroad right of way on Amtrak property with an expanded public space next to the station to tie it into the city a little bit better. But that's the answer. It's Amtrak land.
Thank you.
Nancy, why don't you go ahead with your question? And if anyone else has a question, either private message me, raise your hand, or use the hand function.
Okay, this is quick. And I might have missed it because my other phones kept ringing. I lived in Riverdale for quite a few years and my husband worked in Manhattan. And there was a shuttle bus. So when Metro North makes the station in Co-op City, could there be a Metro North shuttle bus that would come to City Island and take people to the train? Because that's how he got to the train station in Riverdale in those years. And they still have it.
Yeah, it's a good question too. I don't know that Metro North is in the business of shuttle buses, but we've certainly heard interest in shuttle buses at other stations. Morris Park is a little unique because you have all the institutions that, manage their own shuttle buses, but there is certainly a logic to it. Also with Co-op City, but they have the buses. So
this drove around Riverdale and it was a Metro North.
It was Metro North that ran? I'll ask Metro North. I wasn't aware of that.
It was because he worked in Midtown and took that to Metro North every day.
It just did a loop through the neighborhoods into the station.
Yes, it still does. It
still does. Okay.
I'm sure it does. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Nancy. Does anyone else have a question before I does anyone else have a question? I have one more, but I'll hold it if someone else wants to ask first.
I noticed there was one in the chat from Nicole. So just wanted to.
Oh, I thought I responded to her directly that it was
never mind.
Co-op is Metro North, not Subway. But I did respond. I didn't do it to everyone. I directly messaged her. But thank you. No, sometimes I miss those, so I appreciate the. I appreciate that. That was better to have a second set of eyes on those. I guess the other thing is Michael and Christine. I mean, is obviously how this Metro North stations go in and how people's connections to certain neighborhoods are and comfort, someone might need to go see their doctor, what have you. I mean, are we set to then re-examine the bus routes again around those stations? I guess that's my question.
Yeah,
because that opens us up, and I'll speak for this particular neighborhood. I know I have the fortune of being able to engage you guys a little on the Jacoby side where I work, but on the City Island side, part of the reason that our bus is not reliable is because it gets stuck on what I call the 1,000 points of light exits at that point on I-95 North, where you have 7 different exit and entry points in less than 1,000 feet. And as a result of that, people come through, they're confused, even though 50% of the traffic's just barreling through, people are weaving in and out, and that delays the bus. So my concern is just, how do we maybe maximize Erskine Place, as I mentioned earlier, but there might be people who might want to take it from Morris Park or I guess what is the grand plan to incorporate the Metro North designs and the bus designs kind of together? Because I see 2 different processes happening, but I just want to make sure, is the left hand talking to the right hand on this? Because I don't want to redesign one bus route and then we've got the train stations coming in and everyone's behavior pattern changes.
Yeah. So my understanding is NYC Transit did sort of an alternative study of when the stations come on, what they can project. But obviously they can't redesign a bus to do that until the service is in place. But NYC Transit is certainly aware of the stations, and in their bus redesign, that was something that they were looking at. But again, it's one thing to look at it. It's another thing to instate it before there are train stations to take people to. But certainly we've been in contact with them. Again, DOT is certainly a partner. Some of those things are difficult. So I'll give you an example, John, of why this can be difficult. We heard a lot about wayfinding and different kind of city wayfinding. For instance, the Link NYC type stuff. Some of that stuff, it's difficult for DOT to make a determination until they actually have the new pedestrian patterns and the new traffic patterns. And so unfortunately, some things come a little later, but I can tell you NYC Transit certainly did a version of their study that took the stations into account.
Okay. Okay. Beverly had a very thoughtful question in the comments here. And that was,
Oh,
would it be?
it was just part of the whole conversation about an MTA rail link shuttle would require going from one system to another and 2 fares. And I was making the point that it would be the same thing, wouldn't it, from Metro North to the X29? That would also be 2 fares. Although following up on your last comment, I would be really concerned if the bus routes get shaped based on usage patterns once the stations do go in, because I think then there would be a risk that people would say, well, people from City Island aren't using the Co-op City station, so there is no need, when in fact there may be a great amount of desire to use it, and it's just impossible to get there, right? So I know that there's a little bit of a chicken and egg issue.
I'm not an expert in how they model that, Beverly. I don't think that would be the case, but I understand the concern. I do, yeah.
Okay. And then just back of your mind here, you know, again, I know there's some examination of when the Bronx Metro North stops come in is having the, and I know this is something for you and your coalition, not city planning to examine, but you know, the fares being reduced for Bronxites as they're not going on the train the longer period of time. So please communicate that on behalf of all of us, the third of the community that's senior citizens, Co-op City that's a naturally occurring retirement community, and everyone else around who might be appreciative of not having to pay $8 each way or more so.
I hear the plea. I do.
Thank you. Okay. If anyone has any questions, if you want, you can email us at cityislandrising1word@gmail.com. We will pass them along to Michael and Christine. It is always good to see you guys, and we thank you for.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
John. I'm sorry, I should have done this in the beginning, but I really enjoyed Linda's presentation, and I thought I would take a second to just plug a couple of products that DCP has that basically tie into exactly what she does. Do you mind if I just do that really quickly, John?
Go for it. Yep.
I
Use
think
the
it's
time.
useful, and this group might find it useful. I didn't intend to do this, but when Beverly was speaking, I thought it would be insane of me not to share this. So one sec here. So, you know, Linda, sorry, I spoke to a couple of data products that are available that include ACS and census data. You may well be aware of these products, but New York is very lucky and very unique in that you have a lot of very able people working in the city government, and I'm very proud that this is a product of my agency. There are 2 tools I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. One is just the Community District Profiles tool, which you know, you can choose your district, and it comes with a lot of data. You can just get a really quick overview. This is sort of the more easily user-ready kind of, you know, certain geography that we're used to thinking about in New York City. The other one that's a little more powerful is the Population Fact Finder tool. And I can send links to both of these. And this is really pulling that raw ACS data. And so there were some questions, for instance, about, you know, finding households with people above a certain age as the head of the household. This is a really good place to start with that. So, you know, you can choose however many of these you want. And then you can basically pull the data on your profile, your tracks, and you've got a plethora of demographic data, you've got your social data, a number of things, economic data, housing data, et cetera. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware that these were out there. These are tools that are maintained by the Department of City Planning that are pulling from live data from the census. So you don't have to worry about the data being outdated. They try to get the latest version as soon as it's available. So sorry, I just wanted to.
It's already updated.
Yeah. Okay, I'll stop sharing that now. And
that was super helpful. No, I've actually used that site before. That was what I used on one of my presentations, actually. That was super helpful. And I will point out that on the CB10 one, it said, oh, 40% of people were rent burdened. So all the more reason to give us a reduced fare for everyone. But I'll stop my sale point there because it's not really relevant. Thank you both for your time. You were great guests. And let's let the dialogue continue. And please let us know about things related to Metro North so we can make sure we're all there and we're all present and we're all participating.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Everyone.
Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Okay. And then our third guest for the evening, I just want to make sure he is here. because this is a part of an ongoing collaboration, which I'm not just me, but I think our whole board is very, very excited about. And that's with the NYC Commission on Human Rights, Orlando Torres. I see you're on the call, sir. You available? There we go.
Yes.
Nice
Thank you
to
so
see you.
much.
I know we've spoken on the phone a few times, so now it's nice to see you. And
Yeah.
Orlando and I came into contact. Our board and I think City Island in general, you know, we're going through a tough time as a city and as a country. There is, you know, we don't sometimes, and not people on this call, but just in general, sometimes we don't see ourselves in each other. And there's been a lot of issues lately of hate crimes, particularly against our AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander friends and neighbors. And how can we all be better neighbors and stand up? Because I know no matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, you know, who you love, we all want everybody to be treated with respect. And we want everybody to know that their voice, you know, they're important and that their voice matters. And Orlando has been a big help because we're planning a few things that I'll leave it to him as the more knowledgeable person to tell us about.
Sure thing. Thank you, John. Just want to say good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me, giving me some time in your meeting. Really happy to learn about this group and to kind of get to know more about you all. And John, thanks again for the invitation. Just real quick, I put my contact information in the chat box as well as a link to our website. And I just want to say that, you know, I came tonight to just kind of formally introduce myself, talk a little bit about what we do at the Commission on Human Rights, answer any questions that you have. I will be back next month as well for kind of a short version of our bystander intervention workshop that I will deliver to this group. And as John mentioned, kind of alluded to, we're also thinking about doing the full version of that bystander intervention workshop for this group in kind of a separate virtual setting, because the full version of the workshop is about an hour and a half. And so we wouldn't want to try to squeeze that into your monthly meeting. So that's kind of conversations that have happened prior to this. Tonight, it's all about just me introducing myself, a little bit about what I do, what we do at the commission, and I'm always happy to answer questions. But I also want to just, you know, I left that contact information just so everyone here knows that at any time you can reach out to me for any questions you have about the commission. You know, if you think about it, if you think about something tomorrow or later tonight, just feel free to email me or give me a call. So with that, I'll just quickly say, my name is Orlando Torres. I'm a Bronx resident here, and I'm the director of the Bronx office of the Commission on Human Rights. And we are the city agency that enforces the human rights law of the city. New York City has probably the strongest human rights law in the country. We started with about 2 protected classes in the 1950s, early 1950s. We covered discrimination based on race and religion. We are now up to 27 protected classes, right? And so our agency provides free legal services for people who have, you know, faced discrimination or harassment based on what we call a protected class, which is usually something having to do with your identity. So for example, age, disability, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, are all examples of protected classes covered under the law. There are others that don't have anything to do with your identity, so to speak. For example, if you have a housing voucher, it's illegal for you to be discriminated against when you're looking for housing, right? But that's just kind of a general idea of the protections that are out there. And so if folks have experienced discrimination in employment and looking for a job, or at their current job, or in looking for housing, or at a place of public accommodations, they can come to us and receive free legal services. The other part of what we do, which is more of what my side of the commission does as part of the Community Relations Bureau, is that we educate folks in the city that, first of all, that the law exists, that we exist as an agency, and also just the kind of more detailed areas of the law, right? And so, for example, tomorrow I will be doing a fair housing law workshop for members of a CBO that I worked with in the past, right? Actually, in May, and I'll get this information to John, because folks here might be able to join actually. In May, I'll be doing an employment and housing protections workshop for the Pelham Bay branch of the New York Public Library. And we've actually tried to do a few of those. I haven't had great turnout so far, but I work closely with Ms. Bogosian over there. And, you know, so
It's nearby. People could go. It's not far, guys. It's only like
Well,
10 minutes.
it'll most definitely be virtual, because that's what all of our workshops over the past year, unfortunately, have had to be. As soon as they open up for expanded programming, right now, I believe they're just doing grab and go services in almost all the libraries. As soon as they expand, though, I will be back in person, which is definitely my preference. But yeah, so we'll be doing that online. I know she'll be sending out flyers. I'll make sure that this group gets that flyer then, well before the date, so everyone knows about it. But that's just kind of an example of what we do, right? Out of each of the borough offices, have staff that will go out and do trainings and workshops on the law. They might sit on a panel. They might just attend a meeting like this just to answer questions if folks have it. And we also help kind of do the initial intake process when people believe that they may have experienced some kind of discrimination or harassment. They can come to us. We can do a general inquiry form that then gets sent to the Legal Enforcement Bureau. The Legal Enforcement Bureau of the Commission are the lawyers. They do all the heavy lifting in terms of investigation cases and stuff. I'm not a lawyer, but I know the law well enough to have a good sense of whether or not someone has a case or not. If there's any doubt in my mind, I send them to Legal Enforcement Bureau. They're the ones who make that final decision. So that is essentially what we do. Actually, one more thing that we do besides the trainings and workshops is also we try to do like public events, which have also been virtual for the past year, that kind of help build community, right? Or that just kind of like maybe highlight a specific issue or a specific topic under the law and bring together different community partners, panelists, maybe legal minds, to have, you know, kind of an in-depth discussion on that topic. So for example, last night we did, and we love it to try to do things that intersect the different protected classes, right? So last night, my colleagues held a forum for the African community around housing discrimination, right? Because, you know, discrimination looks, you know, sometimes looks the same for everyone in certain cases, and in other times it can look very different and specific for different groups of people, right? And so as much as possible, we like to have those conversations, you know, with community partners outside of the commission, just to kind of like help build community and help build community awareness that there is an agency here to serve people when they've been faced with these discriminatory or you know, harassment incidents. That is, I think I will leave it at that for now, just to see if folks have any questions and those questions may inspire me to maybe share a little bit more about our work. But if anyone has anything they'd like to ask or just comment on, please feel free to let me know.
Yeah, guys, please, if you have a question for Orlando, please use the hand function, but he's going to be a familiar face for at least the next meeting and then probably one thereafter. Because again, we're always trying to avail ourselves of different programming the city is offering from people like Orlando and experts, so we can, you know, empower citizens and, you know, create a better community, right? We're all here because we want to, you know, we want to build a better community. So this is in keeping with that, because if not everybody is treated fairly or equally, we're not going to have a good community. So that's, and I appreciate Orlando being here for saying what he said. And, you know, look, we all know last summer, there were a lot of discussions, a lot of conversation points about, you know, how some people, you know, have, you know, the need for racial equity, the need for, you know, people to understand privilege and understand blind spots in dealing with things, myself included. and to, recognize, certain voices that are in the public square not always being heard. So with that, let me turn it over to questions if people have any. No, I guess they're saving them all for your webinar,
It's
our
okay.
next meeting, Orlando. That's what's
okay.
going on here. Okay.
You know what?
I want to thank you
One
for
thing-
coming.
Can I just mention one more thing, actually?
Sure.
If folks, in their, in other capacities of, just their life, or if they're part of other institutions that you feel might be interested in having us come in to do a workshop or a training on the law, or even just attend, another kind of monthly meeting, feel free to reach out to me and let me know if that's the case. And if it's not, and even if it's not in the Bronx, I can, connect you to other staff that cover other areas of the city. So I just want to throw that out there too. It doesn't have to be just in the context of City Island Rising. Happy to, help out as much here as possible, obviously, but I just want to make sure folks know that as far as the Bronx office is concerned, we are borough-wide. So any school, faith-based institution, other kind of community-based organizations that might be interested in our resources, please let me know.
Thank you, Orlando. And we all look forward to working with you and learning from you too.
Same
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks to Orlando. I know everybody, we've had a lot of guests. We wanted to get them on because they were really the focus of this meeting because we had a lot of intelligent people. We do have some updates though, so I want to kind of read them out to everybody. And, I'm going to be calling on some of my board members to help me as we go down this. First important thing is we're going to be writing a letter on behalf of this organization. We've been working very closely with the Hutchinson River Restoration Project and some of the people over there, as well as the City on Oyster Project. And this was a part of our environmental summit about 18 months ago. We brought together all the environmental groups. We had a large discussion about poor water quality. And at that meeting, what was identified as causing a lot of the poor water quality was the fact that in Mount Vernon, there was sewerage seeping into the waterway, which was leading to us always getting an F rating by Save the Sound. So Save the Sound is going to be working with the congressional members to try to get some of this money covered in the stimulus. And just so you know, even though I don't see someone from office on this particular call, Senator Biaggi is always, texting us and thinking of different ways where she's trying to advance this issue. So I want to, she has really been the person at the forefront of that. So I always want to give credit where it's due. But we are going to be writing a letter on behalf of this organization just to say we support the environment. We support if there can be federal funds directed to this, because the sooner we clean up that waterway, the better things are going to be in our community going forward. Next thing is from our, we did, this is part 4 now, follow up from the last meeting. What we try to do is we don't want to waste anyone's time here. When you guys come and you present something, we try to act on it. And then we'll tell you at the next meeting, you said this, we did this. At the last meeting, we took a vote to support trying to change the parameters on the speed camera that currently exists on City Island Avenue, the speed cameras, for school speeding and everything else. There is legislation up in Albany to change the times. The times that the camera's on are only 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. And some of you have rightfully pointed out City Island's traffic patterns are very different than that. And there is legislation before the state to permit the city to change some of those times as need be. So there's a bill in the Senate, and we reached out to Senator Biaggi and Assemblymember Benedetto. Assemblymember Benedetto is going to co-sponsor the speed camera bill at this assembly level, because it is to pass both houses for it to become law and go to the governor's desk. So you guys brought an issue. You were concerned, I think rightfully so. We pushed very hard for that speed camera. I know there's drag racing going on in the Avenue. As many of you know, I live off of the Avenue. So I hear a lot of what goes on the Avenue. And hopefully this will help us to address drag racing on the Avenue and make this neighborhood a safer place. Other thing that came up in the last meeting were the bike racks. And I think everyone knows they put bike racks all over the Avenue. This was going on Crosby Avenue. I know there were some minor hiccups. Certain places are using the space for their restaurant seating, and a few places would like even more bike racks or didn't get the bike racks. Again, not plugging her, but Senator Biaggi and her staff, Angela and her staff. And if you want to reach out to her, it's Angela, is commonly spelled, at senatorbiaggi.com, is in touch with DOT. Matt Cruz at CB10 is in touch with DOT, trying to get them rearranged in certain areas, trying to get more bike racks in certain areas, and trying to work out some of the minor hiccups that exist there. So, things that happened in the last meeting are affecting the community in ways both in Albany and right here on the Avenue. Next matter is, you all remember at our January meeting, we had a presentation from our group in Transportation Alternatives. It was with concerns to safety concerns in Pelham Bay Park. We talked about the bollards that look like bowling pins. Frankly, they get knocked down so often. We talked about the poor condition of the roadways. We talked about the area when you're making the right over by Pelham Bay, the Pelham Bay Bridge, that there is no protection between the pedestrians and the bicyclists and the motorists. We talked about the need, if DOT can advertise that they made City Island, the bridge, a protected bike lane, then if they're not delivering on that, we have every right as taxpayers and as citizens to ask about that. And we sent the letter with Transportation Alternatives. Credit where it's due. The DOT commissioner immediately reached out that same day. We are scheduling a meeting. If you are someone who spends a lot of time in the park, if you are someone who these are really the issues that drive you, we're going to have a small contingent from our group be a part of this meeting with some of our elected officials. So, and with DOT and with some of the other agencies, I'm going to bring up Lake Orchard in this meeting. So please message me, call me, text me, whatever. We want to have a decent group of people who directly experience things in the park to, bring their lived experience into those discussions so we can make the city work better for us. Beyond that, the only other thing, Roy, I was thinking of you. I appreciate that. You are my number one person. And then the other thing that I just wanted to bring up is that David Diaz from our group, I found this out the other day. The Independent Budget Office did a sampling of communities that really did well with composting. City Island did very, very well with the composting program. And I remember when it was canceled, Dan Triber, who's on this call, and others were very, very upset. We were composting at the same rate of communities that were like 5 or 6 times the size of us in terms of the tonnage we were producing. So Dan and David Diaz, who's on our board, we're working to try to get a compost site, working with sanitation to try to bring it to City Island. We will be in touch with you, but I wanted you to know that since it's come up in a past meeting, your concerns are not on deaf ears, and we're working on it. Before I open it up to our elected officials and in the open floor, we have some events on here. Our neighborhood walk, which is we've been doing every month this year. Beverly or Louisa, would you guys like to just kind of give it a plug if you could?
Sure, I'm happy to do so.
There we go.
We have had a small but mighty contingent every month out for our monthly stroll around City Island. It's a great opportunity to get a little social time, get a little exercise. It's a relaxed, non-competitive environment, and we decide where we're going when the group gets together. So our next walk is May 1st, which is a week from Saturday at 2 o'clock. We meet in front of Hawkins Park and walk for about 30 to 45 minutes. It's a really great opportunity, like I said, to get a little socially distanced and masked up social time and a little fitness as well. So I hope to see more of you there. And the rain date will be Sunday. If it's raining on Saturday, we'll go on Sunday.
Thank you, Beverly. The next thing we're working on is we're going to do, and if you were on the social, James and I were speaking about it, we're going to do another neighborhood cleanup. Right now, tentatively, we're looking to do it on May 22nd. We'll have an update at the next meeting. If you have sites that are in need of a little TLC, please email us, cityislandrising, one word, @gmail.com. James was the one who basically, that whole shrub that was into the bike lane by the City Island Bridge, he tamed it with his own bare hands. So that was very good. And, we cleaned up a lot of rubbish and other things in certain parts of the neighborhood. So we want to go back. We want to do that again. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we just got confirmed for an electronic recycling event, me-cycle event, which Dan Schreiber, who's on the call, was very nice to lend, a little space on his property. We're going to set up on June 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., not at 2 a.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can drop off your electronics, and we will make sure they are recycled in a environmentally friendly manner. We have a partner whose name I can't immediately remember, but they're doing it free of charge, and we are grateful to them, and I will announce them at the next meeting, and they will be on the flyer, so you will know who they are. And this is really good because it's in keeping with our environmental mission and some of the other stuff we're talking about here. And then finally, although she told me she couldn't make this call, Joanne Valletta, who's a member, has been in contact with us about, we're doing something with Bronx Bound Books. You may have read about them. They're a part bookshop, part literary service, part child programming, large bus. And they are actually going to come to City Island in front of Clipper Coffee. We got the clearance from Peter on June 26th at a time, or midday. We'll get the time together, and people can come and they can go on the Bronx Bound bus, and and get books and everything else. And it's a really, really nice literary experience. We had a meeting with the proprietor, and she just was absolutely lovely. And we're looking forward to this partnership. It's going to be a nice event for young families. And even if you're not a young family, we still encourage you to come out, and, promotes literacy, education, family bonding, what have you. Okay. First, we're going to ask the elected officials if they're on the call. I saw Farrah was on the call, and I saw Marielle was on the call. If they're still here, we'd love to have you guys. If you have any updates or anything you'd like to share, this is the time.
Okay, hi, it's Farrah. I'll just jump in. Hi, everyone. Just a few announcements. We are still offering our free tax prep services twice a week. So if you qualify, if you earn, the threshold of $68,000 or less, please call our office to make an appointment. We're also still giving out free food boxes every Friday at the Greek Church on Bruckner Boulevard. No appointment necessary. You could just go there. And we're also going to be hosting on May 3rd a town hall for any non-for-profits that are considering, for anyone who would like to start a non-for-profit. And it's going to be informational regarding starting and maintaining a not-for-profit business. So if anyone would care to join that, please just reach out to me. I'll put my number and email on the chat, and sign up for the town hall on May 3rd. We also have, everything's been booked for this Saturday, but we have a very successful, our first free spay neuter clinic. And a lot of people from City Island have signed up for that with their, for their pets, their cats and dogs. And we're hoping to do more of those. And we recently also had a free pet food giveaway on City Island that did really well. Also, for anyone who still may be looking to get vaccinated, please, or get a vaccine appointment, we are offering them twice a week, every Wednesday and Sunday. So if anyone does need to get an appointment, please reach out as well. If there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Farrah. That was a wealth of information as always. And then Marielle, I see you're on the line. Do you have anything you'd like to share from Comtoast? There you go. Good
Hi,
to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you all. Sorry for joining a little late. I was off and on a couple times. I was in CB11. My name is Marielle de la Cruz. I am the Bronx Borough Director for New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. I just wanted to say hello. I know he came to this meeting. I don't remember when, y'all, but he came to this meeting
Last year
sometime during the height of the pandemic to say hello. And I know that John does a really great job at reaching out when there's questions that you all have regarding the island. I hope to come out sometime soon. I just wanted to put my information on the chat so everyone has it if they have any questions or concerns about what our office is doing. I wanted to keep it brief because it's late. And again, I would love to go to any of your meetings that you may be having regarding the Rising Group or not, so that I can be a better representative for you all. Because the more that I know, the more that I could put forward to my office. But I will be going on leave for about a couple months, but I'll still be accessible via cell phone because I won't be leaving the city. So questions or concerns, my phone number is 212-920-9501. And my email is a little longer, but it's on the chat. So thank you everyone for having me here today and for accepting me a little late. But I did hear some of the presentations that occurred, and I love to be here. So you guys have very interesting topics and very different from most of the areas that I cover. So thank you.
And thank you, Marielle, because you're always a constant presence in these meetings, and we appreciate that and send our best to the comptroller. And Lois, go ahead. You had a question.
I was astounded, I guess it was last week, when I was watching Channel 12 and the mayor was announcing the resiliency, the areas in the Lower East Side where they were calling it the resilient for flooding. And they were also talking about the city working across the city in Brooklyn, in Staten Island, in Queens, and even in the Bronx, the South Bronx, and never a mention of City Island in terms of resiliency projects, in terms of flood. They are investing in building up flood walls, in building parks, in putting a lot of money into these areas, and I never hear City Island as one of the areas where they focus. I don't know. A lot of it has to do with the city council members who are really active and promoting their areas. And our city council member did zero. It's just like, why is City Island never in the thoughts when they talk about the Bronx of flood areas? We are, when they look at a map, we are red in terms of being a high flood zone. I don't get it, why we're not getting money, why we're not getting attention. How do we resolve this, Joan?
I appreciate what you said, just because, and it was passionate, and I appreciate well-informed passion, which you do. I think, look, I don't want to, and again, I don't want to knock the council member here. I think the important thing we need to do is we need to be vocal. And the great way of being vocal, and I think something we can all do to help make our own case and then bring it to the council member, is there's an environmental justice study going on right now. And believe it or not, City Island is not listed as an environmental justice community. And I think that's ridiculous. And I have commented as such. And I think Beverly and I know David have filled out comments on this page. So I'm just emailing this to myself because I'm going to put it in the chat. And I think something we can do, because your question is, how do we put City Island on the map for these resiliency things? And I think something we can do to kind of make us stand out is if we all filled out this survey, and I'm going to make sure we email this out to all the members, because we have a list of 500 people who live on City Island. So we might as well, use that and try to make that happen. So I'm going to put this in the chat here. And I think it's very important that everybody, look, 5 minutes of your time to talk about the resiliency things, the resiliency matters we need, whether it's berming, whether it's seawalls, whether it's better drainage. Every time there's a moon tide, half of Ditmar shouldn't go under. I say that all the time. That's not acceptable. It doesn't happen in Miami. It doesn't happen anymore in New Orleans, thank God. And it shouldn't be acceptable here. We can address these problems. Number two, we should be talking about the water quality, even if we're working with our state and our federal partners. It's still very important. And number three, again, just as a part of the discussion here, is we have to keep a watchful eye on Rodman's Neck, because next year is going to be the big year on Rodman's Neck. And, whoever that mayor is who goes in there, and, we don't know yet, but we will see. We have to be on them to finish Rodman's Neck, give us resiliency, give us protections for our homes and for our streets and for our sewage problems, fix the Hutchinson River and the pollution coming out of there, work with our regional partners. And then finally, and I talk about this all the time, I know other people talk about this all the time, I know Michael Shanley's the biggest advocate for this. We have to get those utility wires underground. I know Comptroller Stringer is a big advocate of that. I know Councilmember Gjonaj has introduced legislation saying that. So we need to do everything we can to work with them, but we have to start making do what we do best, and that's make our own case.
I do. And I want to just say, Maria, I'm a big fan of Scott Stringer. I worked with him on aging issues when I worked with AARP. I was on his committees years ago. And, I know he's running for mayor and other candidates are running for mayor. We should get some of our candidates who are running for mayor and our candidates running for city council to address these issues as before they get elected. I would like to hear what their support would be for making this happen. I mean, it's crazy. I went to one other thing. I went to a conference last year. It was a federal conference from NOAA, sponsored by NOAA. And they showed maps of New York City, and the areas that were in red were the danger zones, and City Island was all red. We are federally, it has been indicated that we are a flood danger zone, and yet there's been no attention paid to this whatsoever. So
it's funny you say that, and I'm just gonna, before I go to Beverly, because I know she's gonna say something probably smarter than what I'm gonna say, but I remember a meeting that we had with OEM, and this was back, I want to say in 2015, and it was with then Commissioner Esposito, and he kept coming out here, but because that's what it showed on maps. City Island was bright red, very, very vulnerable. And so he would at least come out to listen. And now we've got to act on these things. So I don't know if anyone caught this, but I did put in the chat the environmental justice survey. I think it's really important for all of us to take that link. I'm going to e-blast it out, but everyone should take this link, put it on their social media, send it to their friends. We need a big City Island representation from this. And then what I think we should all do at the same time is forward the responses we get, because they send you a form with everything you said, to Marielle and to Farrah, so that, because these are our partners in city government, right, for right now. So we've got to work with them to do that. When it gets to the candidates and everything, Lois, there have been a few candidates nights. I think we're going to, I don't want to say for this group, but I think there's going to be more candidates nights for different offices. Beverly, you had something to say, so why don't I step
Yeah, so just following right off of that. So one of the important restrictions that we have, Lois and everybody, is that we're a 501c3 organization. So we cannot support or oppose any candidate for public office. This is why we put such a high premium on when we have elected officials and they are gracious enough to attend. So thank you so much, Farrah and Marielle, for being here. That is our primary point of contacting them, because we're prohibited from engaging in any kind of campaign electoral activity within this organization. We may at some point be able to have a forum where we invite everybody and sort of talk through them, but other organizations, you're gonna have to go through other organizations to, put your thumb on the scale for or against a candidate. And that's just because of the nature of how City Island Rising is structured. I do think that that's important. But I also, I'd be remiss as the lawyer for the organization if I didn't share that important piece of information and that restriction that we are bound to. But we are ever so grateful to the representatives from our current electeds.
However, having come from AARP, which is a similar kind of 501c, it's a slightly different, but it's still still has to watch being partisan in any way. I don't know that issues are necessarily considered partisan. And if we invite our candidates, all of them, to address us and to answer these issues, I don't know if that really counts. I think we have to look into whether that is considered campaign related or it's issue related. And there's a fine line there, I realize, but you know, organizations that are 501c3 can address issues.
Yep,
As long
that's
as
exactly
they
right.
do it.
We can address issues, but we cannot support or oppose candidates for public.
Exactly. You can't come out and support a particular candidate.
Hey, John, sorry, I just wanted to say that the link doesn't work that you sent.
Oh, God dang. All right. Give me a second on that. Beverly, I know you wanted to kind of, before I introed, in keeping actually with what Lois is saying, we do have a guest who's actually running for political office. Beverly, did you say the very important disclaimer that we do have to say because we are 501c3 first?
Yep, that we as an organization do not support or oppose any candidates for public office, and we can't be involved in any kind of electioneering, in any kind of electioneering activity.
And just to be very clear to everybody, what we try to do here is beyond the issue-based stuff that we just got into a discussion about. We try to give you knowledge and give you the ability to learn more about people who may be running for office, and then you make that determination, not us as a group, but you. And we have had candidates come in, as people know. It's an open seat race for our local city council seat. We have had guests who are candidates come before, and tonight we, in keeping with that and giving everyone the same opportunity, we have a guest tonight who is running in the 13th district, Miss Monique Johnson, who's on the call right now. You are muted, my dear.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello, Monique.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Doyle. To Miss Lois, thank you. Thank you. No, you're not advocating for me. I'm here tonight because I am interested in your concerns. I am interested in the concerns of the constituents of City Island. My purpose for being here tonight is to listen and to learn so I can address your issues, and also to answer any questions that you guys may have of me, because I am a new candidate that is running for the council seat in District 13. I don't know if that is allowed of me to ask if you have questions.
You know what we'll do, Monique? Why don't you tell us a little bit your background, your experience that you would bring, and then if we have a question or two, we'll try to fit them in.
Okay. So I live in Throsneck houses. I've lived here for 48 years. I am the president of Throsneck Resident Council. I have been the president here since 1992. I advocate for 3,500 residents. Here in Throsneck, where I live, I have 1,724 apartments that I am responsible for. I advocate and I fight for the rights of my residents. I serve as the mediator between my residents and the landlord. I serve as the mediator between my residents and the local elected politicians. I serve as the mediator between my residents and the local police department. And this is what I do. So I'm not new to this work. I'm just requesting that my territory be enlarged. So the same thing that I do for the residents here is what I am willing to do for the constituents of District 13, but I will just be doing it on a larger scale.
Monique, thank you for that. And if people want to learn more about you and your campaign, how can they get in touch with you?
So I'm going to give you my number. I also have a website. I also have a Facebook page. So, and also this week in the Bronx Times, there'll be information coming out about me as well. When was it? Last week, they had the shooting of the young lady. I was there with Barbara. And we did an interview with Channel 12 News. I met with City Island Civic, and I'm willing to meet with you guys. I'm available to you. Whatever you need, I'm here to serve.
Thank you, Monique. Does anyone have a question for Monique? Okay, Monique, I'll ask just a question because, you know, this is put on YouTube, so people may be watching later on. My only question would be, if you were elected, what would be your top priority?
To serve the constituents of District 13.
Okay. Well, Monique,
and that's a broad answer. And the reason why is because every community is different, right? And I have to address every individual and their need separately.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, I know one of the issues in City Island is public safety. So that's something that I'm working on right now. So as of next week, we'll be meeting with the Civic and the 4-5. And you're more than welcome to join me if you like, you know, because they shared that was one of their issues.
Sure.
You know,
and yes.
And also reaching out to the Department of Traffic.
Okay. Yeah, and the doors both ways for you and all the other candidates. You know, if you guys like to come here and listen to concerns of the community, we welcome that. And, you know, the important thing here is even after an election is over, you know, we're all committed community partners, and we all want to see all the neighborhoods in our larger region be enhanced.
Yes.
From Throgsneck houses to City Island to Co-op City.
Yes.
Where all our guests have come from today, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for coming. And if anyone has questions, Monique, you're going to hang out for a little bit so people can message you?
Yes. And I'm going to also put my phone number in the chat.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you. Okay.
Does anyone have a question? And I know this meeting has, you know, we've had lots of guests, which is very good. And sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but you can always email us at cityislandcivic@gmail.com. Does anyone have a
City
question?
Island Rising.
Oh, City Island Rising. Sorry, City Island Rising. Does anyone have a
Flashbacks,
question,
John.
comment? Sorry about that. Question, comment, concern that they would like addressed now. Leslie, I see the hand is already up. Go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's very quick. I am very concerned regarding the lack of signage for the deer crossing. Because I unfortunately saw a deer that was hit, and it was very traumatic. And I know that there are many deers that come out at night. And I've actually drove around to see how many deer signs are up, or deer crossing signs are up, and there are literally 2 of them. They're very high, and you can't even see them. And with the amount of foot traffic and just traffic in general that we have on the island, I feel that we should be doing a better job in protecting them.
Leslie, couldn't agree with you more. This has been a big bugaboo for me, and I know for many other islanders. Last I checked on City Island, we actually put up a map, which I'll get your email from this and I'll send it to you. We had a meeting with DOT in December of 2019 for more deer signs, because there are no deer signs when you're going over the Pelham Bay Bridge, and there's no deer signs if you're taking the hunt. Now, I was very involved, as well as a bunch of other people, in trying to get the deer signs up in the first place. And we have really been trying on that front, but I want you to know the concerns are not falling on deaf ears. And I'm going to actually email you, I believe right now, and it's funny because we did a map, which we put online, and I'm trying to pull it up right now because but I believe there are 9 signs. It's not enough. I'm not saying it's enough, but they do need more signs because, you know, this is a problem we go through every year. And you're right, a lot of deer, unfortunately, do get killed as a result of this.
Yeah, yeah. And I figured that you guys were aware. I definitely wasn't expecting this to be a new thing, but I just wanted to bring it up again because it was very traumatic, not just for myself, but I just feel horrible that these poor deer are just, you know, it's just not, we could do better is basically what I'm saying. We could do better. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Leslie.
totally understand. I was on a long walk with my, at the time, 8-year-old. And we nearly I saw some things that would have traumatized him for life. It may be, John, Leslie might be interested in attending that Pelham Bay Park meeting.
Yes,
I think
I
that this
would.
is an issue that you know, we could use some additional you know, passionate advocates for.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I'm very
Leslie, I'll be
very
in touch
interested.
with you.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch with you. Absolutely. We'd love to have you there.
Thank you.
It is an issue. And I'm actually going to send you the map because this has been I'm sorry, there were 7 signs in the park. And the map actually has where they all are.
Wow.
But there should be at least another 3. Frankly, there should be even more than that. But
and they should be lower where people can see them when they're sitting in a car. I mean, if you see where some of them are, it's incredible. You literally have to look up to see them. Like, how is that helpful?
When you're right, you're right. You know, trust me. At one point, they were going to do a study because in Staten Island's the only other place that really has this problem, and they were actually going to do a study of the deer population. And I was going to, you know, use my connections, find out the date for the study, and just go out there wearing antlers one night and just try to, like, you know, stir things up. So I am with you. Beverly's with you. Beverly's
I'm definitely in with the getting dressed up. I'll do that. Like, whatever. We just need more signs. But that's it from me. Thank you so much. And any way that I could be of help, please include me.
Yes, Leslie, I will be reaching out to you. So don't worry. Thank you. Thank you for the input. That's how we make the community a better place. And I see what Beverly's doing with her camera there. Does anyone else have a question related to the community that we can address now and in the here and now? Going once, going twice. Okay, guys, it was a 2-hour-long meeting, but I hope you learned a lot. I want to thank all of our guests. I want to first thank Linda Berk. I want to thank Michael. I want to thank Christine from the Department of City Planning, who informed us all about the Metro North study. I want to thank Orlando Torres, who has stuck around for a long period of time. I want to thank Beverly, Kim, Louisa, Lois. I want to thank Monique Johnson for coming by, Andrea Allen, everybody. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night. This will be online. And if you have any questions, again, City Island Rising, one word, @gmail.com. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.